I remember my hand shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. My thumb hovered above that tiny blue button, the one that said post. It's wild how something so small can hold so much weight. I had rewritten the caption at least a dozen times, erased it, rewrote it, erased it again, but the words that stared back at me were simple. I've spent years hiding who I am, but I'm done hiding. I'm queer. And this is me. It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't even eloquent, but it was real. And for the first time in my life, I was about to show the world the real me. When I finally pressed post, it felt like jumping off a cliff, heart pounding, breath caught, a split second of silence before the free fall. And in that silence I thought, this is it. The moment my life changes forever. Before that day, my life was built around control. Every smile, every caption, every photo, carefully constructed. I knew how to show people what they wanted to see, without ever revealing who I really was. I had learned early on that people liked a version of me that was easy to digest, friendly, polite, straight, so I gave them that. My coming out journey didn't start with confidence. It started with exhaustion. Because pretending is exhausting. Like holding your breath and calling it peace. I remember scrolling through social media, seeing people post about love, about pride, about living openly, and I'd feel this ache, a strange mix of envy and admiration. I wanted that kind of freedom. But the fear was louder than the desire. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear that once I said it out loud, I'd never be able to take it back. So I stayed quiet for years. I laughed at jokes that hurt. I smiled through questions about boyfriends. I nodded when people said things like, "Of course you'll marry a man someday." Each small lie felt harmless at first, but over time it built a wall so high that even I couldn't see who I was anymore. Until one night that wall started to crack. It was late. I was lying in bed, the glow of my phone lighting up the darkness, and for some reason, I opened my notes app. I started typing. It wasn't planned, just a stream of thoughts that had been buried too long. I've been quiet for so long, afraid of what people would think, afraid of losing love, but I can't keep pretending anymore. I'm queer. I read it over and over again. The words looked too honest, too dangerous, like they belonged to someone braver than me. I didn't post it. Not that night, but I couldn't delete it either. I carried that little note around in my phone for months, like a secret heartbeat only I could hear. And then, one day, it started beating louder. A friend of mine posted something on Instagram. A picture of her and her girlfriend holding hands. The caption said, "It took me years to love myself enough to share this." I remember staring at that photo for a long time. The light in her eyes, the peace on her face, and I thought, God, I want that. Not the photo, not the likes, but the peace. That night I opened my notes again. I added one line. "I'm done hiding." And that's when I knew. I was ready to say it out loud. I woke up the next morning with a kind of nervous energy I can't describe. My heart was already racing, like my body knew what was coming before my mind had fully decided. I opened Instagram, found the old draft, added a picture of me. Nothing special, just me smiling, and typed the words I'd been afraid of for so long. I'm queer. I took a deep breath, counted to 3, and pressed post. At first nothing happened, just silence. Then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then nonstop. Notifications lit up my screen like fireworks. I watched as messages poured in. Friends, coworkers, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. "So proud of you." This made me cry. "Thank you for being brave." Each message felt like a hand reaching out, pulling me closer to the surface. I cried not because I was sad, but because I finally felt like I could breathe. For the first time, I wasn't living for approval, I was living for truth. But then came the twist. In the middle of all that love, one message popped up that made my stomach drop. It was from someone I'd known my whole life. A family friend, someone older, someone who'd always treated me kindly. They wrote, "You don't need to make this public. Some things are better kept private." I froze. It was just one sentence, but it cut deep. For a moment, the old fear came rushing back, that maybe I had gone too far, that maybe I should have stayed silent. But then another notification appeared. A message from a girl I didn't know. It said, "I've been scared to come out for years. Seeing your post gave me the courage to tell my sister tonight. Thank you." And just like that, everything made sense again. I realized that visibility isn't vanity. It's survival. It's hope. That one post wasn't just for me. It was for everyone who was still holding their breath, waiting for a sign that it's okay to exhale. Before that day, I thought being queer was something to manage, a detail I had to hide neatly in the corners of my life. But after that post, I realized it's not something to manage. It's something to live. The world didn't fall apart when I told the truth. If anything, it came together. People I never expected reached out. Some shared their own stories. Some simply said, "Thank you for saying it first." That's when I understood what authenticity really is. It's not about being loud or dramatic. It's about being honest. Even when your voice shakes. Before, my world was full of what ifs. What if they judge me? What if I lose friends? What if I regret it? After, I learned a new question. What if they love me anyway? And the answer surprised me. Most of them did. Not everyone, of course. A few disappeared quietly. A few avoided the topic altogether. But that's the thing about truth. It doesn't need everyone's approval. It just needs your commitment. I used to think the scariest part of coming out was the reaction. But really, the scariest part was admitting it to myself, and then letting the world see that version of me too. That moment became the turning point in my coming out journey, because it wasn't just about a post. It was about reclaiming my story. If I could go back and talk to that version of me, the one sitting there sweating, shaking, terrified of hitting post, I'd tell her this: you are about to lose something, but not the things you think. You won't lose your worth. You won't lose your future. You'll lose the weight of pretending, and that loss will set you free. That post didn't change who I was. It revealed who I had always been. And once I stopped hiding, I discovered something incredible. The world didn't get smaller. It got bigger, brighter, full of people who saw me, really saw me, and said, "You belong." So, if you're listening to this right now, and you're somewhere in the middle of your own coming out journey, wondering if it's safe, if it's worth it, if you're brave enough, I want you to hear me clearly. You are brave enough. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're not ready to say it to the world yet, even if the only person you tell right now is yourself, coming out isn't one big moment. It's 1,000 small ones. Each time you choose honesty over fear, and someday, you'll look back and realize that the scariest moments were actually the beginning of your freedom. That's what lesbian stories and queer stories are made of. Not perfection, but courage. The courage to live your truth, one breath at a time. So here's my advice. Don't rush your story. Don't let anyone tell you when or how to share it. Just promise yourself that you will. In your own way, in your own time. And when you do, whether it's through a post, a conversation, or just whispering it to your reflection, you'll feel something shift inside you. A quiet, steady peace, a knowing that you've come home to yourself. If my story resonated with you, if you've ever wrestled with the fear of being seen, I'd love to hear your story in the comments, because your voice matters, your truth matters. And every time one of us speaks, we make the world a little softer, a little safer, a little more real. And if you want to hear more raw, honest, and human queer stories about courage, connection, and becoming who you are, subscribe, join this community, because we don't just share stories here, we build bridges. And maybe, someday soon, you'll find yourself hovering over that same blue button, heart racing, breath catching, ready to say, "This is me." And when you do, I hope you know, you won't be alone.